All right, looks like we're live. Good morning, everyone. Welcome to the industry panel. This session features three professionals in the industry with different backgrounds to help paint a picture of education and just training needed to pursue careers in aerospace, what these professional roles entail, some of the experiences that shape these careers, and more. Just like every other session today, the last portion is going to be addressing questions submitted by the audience directly. So make sure that if you have any thoughts, any comments, type those into the chat, and we'll pass them along to the panel. So today we have Darek Downing, Director of Operations at ATC Manufacturing. Darek provides 30 years of management and leadership experience to the ATC team, including 20 years serving in the U.S. Air Force. Darek believes in growing and empowering employees to build a strong team that is driven by quality, on-time delivery, and a can-do attitude in all things. Next up, we have Paul Rosenwinkle, Financial Analyst at Plexus. Paul's educational background includes a BBA in finance and an MBA. Before moving into manufacturing, Paul had a decade-long career in banking. Paul is active in the community through Boise Young Professionals and Idaho manufacturing lines. In his free time, Paul spends time with his family, mountain biking, and enjoying the outdoors. And last but not least, we have Lane Houston, mechanical engineer at Micron. Lane Houston is a mechanical engineering MS graduate from Montana Tech in Butte, who recently began working for Micron Technology. Lane has worked in nanotechnology research and enjoys working with his hands. He's an avid golfer, science fiction reader, and happy dog father. All right, so for the format of this panel, questions will be asked to the group, and order of response will be Darek, then Paul, followed by Lane. And we'll go about 2 to 3 minutes per response, but we're not completely beholden to that. Okay, so Darek, why don't you start us off and just can you tell us, what do you tell people when they ask you what you do for work? Oh, Darek, you're muted right now.
All right, we'll start that off with some volume. Thanks for that. Yeah, that can be challenging at times because we work with cutting edge technology, and it's not something that everybody understands. ATC is a world leader in what we do, thermoplastics, and the adoption of that in the aerospace industry. And we are always coming up with new cutting edge machinery, a lot of stuff we make ourselves. And so I tell people that, I work in aerospace, but we don't strictly work in aerospace. We also do other industries as well, but aerospace is our main thing. So yeah, basically that we're a world leader, and we're an international supplier. We ship worldwide and work in exciting technologies.
Awesome. Thank you, Darek. Paul, so when you go to those Memorial Day weekend barbecues, what do you tell people what you do for work?
Yeah, they're always super excited to hear about finance. I know that. No, so as a senior financial analyst for Plexus, I typically describe that in my role at finance with Plexus, which we're a contract electronics manufacturer. So I work on the financial side of what all the cool people are doing, all the engineers and everyone else out on the floor who are actually building the brains that go into commercial and defense aviation applications. And I just kind of help make sure that from the financial perspective, we're protecting our company's margins and our interests there. So I just help support all the fun people that are making the things actually happen.
Compliments hot dogs pretty well at those barbecues, I'm sure.
100%.
And Lane, what do you tell people when they ask you what do you do for work?
Good question. I work at Micron, memory manufacturer here. Central headquartered is the word, out of Boise, Idaho. Mechanical engineer, kind of a vague term. I think it's like a catch-all. But basically, what I do here at Micron is a little bit of design work to get some equipment up and running, and also a lot of communication between different personnel, internal and external to Micron. But that's kind of the gist of what I do. But also just working as kind of in my bio, just trying to get internal to that equipment, work with my hands, and get things working, essentially, or fixing things.
Awesome. Thanks, Lane. Derek, we actually have a question that came in right off the bat from the audience, and they're asking, is that a C-17 model in the background?
Yes, very good. Somebody's got good eyesight. Yeah, that's a C-17 Globemaster. It's the last airframe I worked on when I was stationed in Germany before I retired and moved back to Spokane. So that is correct.
Right on. We should give them some bonus points for having a good eye.
I agree.
All right, Derek. So since we're on you, let's get into the next question. How did you get into this position or the line of work that you're in right now?
Well, like you said, I did 20 years in the U.S. Air Force, finished my management degree while I was on active duty. Before I went in the service, I grew up in a family-owned corporation. My dad owned a large family-owned business, and I also worked for Hewlett-Packard before I went in the Air Force in a management role. So always been in management. Then being in the Air Force, obviously I was aircraft mechanic by trade, avionics and airborne computers. And so I got kind of the bug working around aviation when I was getting ready to retire and knew I wanted to come back to Spokane, already owned a home here. Started looking around to see what was out there. ATC was kind of a smaller startup company when I started here 7 years ago with about 30 employees. And I had probably better financial offers at the time because this was a startup company, but not as interesting. This was, cutting technology that I knew had legs to grow. And so I dove into this and really in a quality assurance position. Company grew to over 200 employees, and I moved up over time and in the current role of director of operations, and I've loved every minute of it and the company and the people that we have.
Thanks, Derek. I actually kind of want to ask, was that a gut feeling in terms of, because I mean, it ended up working out pretty well for you.
It worked out very well. That was a gut feel from my experience growing up in a family-owned corporation and my travels, traveling to over 100 countries in my time in the Air Force. And I just really wanted to gamble on this company and gamble on myself. And they've been wonderful to work for, the culture they have and the people we have. And so, yeah, it was a gut feeling and I've never regretted a minute of it.
That's amazing. Thanks, Derek. Paul, how'd you get into your line of work?
Yeah, so I finished up my undergrad in finance and had a fairly lengthy career in banking and spent a little bit of time outside of banking, working for Bayer, one of their subsidiaries, and worked in their operations and supply chain and just absolutely loved it. And somehow got pulled back into banking. So I knew that I wanted to work in a manufacturing environment, a processing manufacturing, because I just enjoyed that so much. So I finished up my MBA as kind of the catalyst to get back out of banking and knew I wanted to work for a large corporation that would have a lot of opportunities. And so kind of set my sights for what's available locally here in the Boise area. And there's quite a few companies. And yeah, settled on a great offer from Plexus. And yeah, just been enjoying wanting to get back into that manufacturing operations type role. And yeah, that was how I got here. Awesome.
I like how it reminded me of Godfather Part 3, where Al Pacino just says, they just pulled me right back in. Right.
That's how banking is. So a word of caution to the high schoolers out there who go into banking, they'll keep you.
Yeah. Well, it must mean something too, that you're good at what you do if they want you back in there.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah.
Awesome. Thanks, Paul. And then Lane, how'd you get into your position, your line of work?
It's kind of a funny story. So after high school, didn't really know what I wanted to do. I didn't have like the best grades coming out of high school and didn't get a lot of scholarship offers into college. But one of my best friends at the time was going to a school in Montana Tech, and I was like, you know what, that sounds like a good idea. And so I went with him and ended up selecting engineering as my major. I loved it, loved the challenge during school, and ended up being stuck there for, I don't know, 6-7 years. Ended up with my master's there in mechanical engineering. And then during my job search, I stumbled across Micron. They came to our career fair here at my school, and talked with their representatives there, and had a great conversation with them, and ended up pursuing Micron. And that's kind of and it just worked out really well. Was able to get a job during the pandemic, and moved down here to Boise. So it's kind of something I didn't know that what I wanted to do after high school, but I ended up finding it along the way, and it worked out very well so far in the end.
Yeah, it's interesting. I don't want to boil it down to just kind of what's meant to be, what is meant to be. But I mean, going into Montana Tech and then opening up doors with mechanical engineering and then ending up in Boise, working for Micron, it's just one thing led to another. But I think like you mentioned, you didn't really foresee this in high school, but it ended up working out what I'd assume is pretty well for you. But
yeah, no, I love it right now. And I'm glad that I did take that chance on jumping into something I wasn't sure of what I wanted to do from in college. So
awesome. Thanks, Lane. All right, Darek, and maybe it's probably a good transition into this. What are some soft skills you would say are required for your job? And for the audience that's watching this, if you're not familiar with soft skills, they're the intangible. So a technical skill would be maybe knowing how to use CAD software, or being able to use, was it V pivots or V, help me out, Paul, on Excel spreadsheets.
Pivot tables,
There
pivot
you go.
charts,
Pivot
all that good
tables.
stuff. Yeah.
Yeah. All right. Well, that shows how much I know about Excel. But Darek, could you maybe tell us about some soft skills that are required for your job?
Soft skills, super important. And I would say the biggest ones are listening, communication with people in your team, knowing that you're not the smartest person in the room, being able to, have smart people that work for you and put those ideas together, and build a team and lead. So it's really, that's been my success, is hard work and leadership, being able to build a team and direct their knowledge and their great ideas. So hopefully that makes sense. That'd be my answer.
No, that makes sense. Yeah.
Okay.
Thanks, Darek. And Paul, what do you think are some soft skills that are required for your job?
Yeah, just to compliment what Darek said, couldn't agree more on listening. I think it's often a skill that gets overlooked and something that's critically important, especially very few of us are the smartest person at the table. I know that's never the case for me. So I definitely have to sit there and listen and just absorb the information that's being given to me and make sure that I'm understanding what's being said, asking clarifying questions, just making sure that you're participating in that discussion mostly by listening. And then the other is just being able to influence people, understanding what motivates and drives them, building that rapport with those people that are typically don't report to you or on some cross-functional team, but you still have to work with them on a day-to-day basis, and you have to make sure that they're able to commit to some action or hold them accountable to some type of action, even though they don't report to you. And the same for yourself as well, just making sure that you're able to do that. Yeah, say those.
So there are a lot of human skills that you need to have, interpersonal skills that you need to have, that sometimes I think, if you're thinking financial analyst, that may not come to the top of mind, but I think it's important. You can't operate as a financial analyst if you can't communicate with others and have other people contribute.
Yeah, exactly. I know it's a different question. We can go into exactly what the role is, but you have to develop relationships with operations, production, processing, shipping. I mean, you're working with all these cross-functional teams, and you need to make sure that you're you have a seat at the table in those discussions. And so that doesn't happen if you can't build rapport with people.
Yeah. Yeah, I guess it's true what they say, money makes the world go round. So everybody has to play a part in the financial analyst part.
It's the tail that wags the dog, so to speak. Yeah.
Exactly. Yeah. Thanks, Paul. And then Lane, what are some soft skills that you think are required for your job?
Yeah, and just kind of echoing what Darek and Paul said, here's communication is probably the most important one for me in my job. It's something that I was told, given advice from countless other professionals. Being able to just understand that you do not have the knowledge that the people around you work, that have been there for years. And basically just asking questions. Don't jump into an issue or a problem thinking you understand everything, or have assume that you understand anything. So basically, my advice would be just don't be afraid to ask questions. Constantly ask questions to your mentors, your coworkers. If you're unsure about anything, reach out. That's one thing that I've been doing here in my early career at Micron, is just trying to build up my knowledge around everything that I work with, and using all these valuable resources around me that are my coworkers or my supervisors. They're there to help you. They're there to train you, and just essentially to make you become a valuable resource to the company.
Thanks, Lane. I think that's really important. I think I catch myself with that a lot, where I don't know if it's a sense of pride or it's a sense of like the perception I think I'm conveying when I ask questions, and it makes me feel like I don't know that I'm doing my job right, or whatever it is. But I think at the end of the day, you have to acknowledge and also embrace the human aspect and say that you want to become better. And that's where the questions come in. Which is another little plug for me to tell the audience, if you do have questions, which I'm seeing questions are starting to come in, and we'll ask those towards the end, but keep asking questions. Like Lane said, it'll help you make sense of what it is that you want to do, and maybe you figure out things you don't like, or who knows, but it could open up doors for you down the road. Lane, you touched on this, so while we have you on, I'm just going to ask you, where did you see yourself? Because you said this earlier, when you were in high school, right? Maybe you didn't see Micron down the road, but where did you see yourself professionally when you were in high school?
Oh, yeah, that's a good question. That was a long time ago. So I knew I wanted to go to school or go to college, but I wasn't positive on it. There was both of my parents were in the military. That was an option that I could have went with. But during high school, the one subject I was decent at wasn't great. I was beat by a lot of my peers there, but I liked math. I liked the challenge. I liked solving different problems. And I mean, even though math might not translate, or it does translate well for problem solving, but some people in high school might not like math because of the things around it, and just constantly redoing the same problem over and over again. But I think if you like problem solving, if you like trying to work through a complex issue, like fixing things, taking things apart and discovering, if you're just curious, I would recommend diving into the engineering career or something similar to that. But I don't know, I'm kind of getting off the rails with this question here, but I wanted to have a for sure career. I knew that coming out of high school. I wasn't sure what it was, but I really did not think a lot about it during high school.
Oh, but I think that's a good point, that you found something that you were kind of interested in, and you still use. I mean, you use in terms of whether it's day-to-day applications at work or outside of office, but that helped guide you a little bit. And don't worry about, you should catch me on a regular day. I just, my answers give you a world tour before I get to your actual question. Thanks, Lane. And then we'll go reverse order. So Paul, where did you see yourself professionally when you were in high school?
Yeah, no, it's interesting listening to Lane's conversation there because it's very similar. I knew I enjoyed math and problem solving, and but I didn't know what I wanted to do with that. And I knew I wanted to go to school, to college, to university, but I didn't know where or what to study. Similarly, actually, my father was military and then started his own small business, and so there was, he had no college background, neither did my mother, and so yeah, it was kind of just something I knew I wanted to do but didn't know what to do. So I ended up applying and enrolling and started out as a civil engineering major, then international business, and then I took 2 semesters off and ran into a family member who worked big corporate finance for Edward Jones, one of the big, she's corporate bonds over there. And I was like, that's exactly, I think, what I want to do is work finance. And so I switched majors to finance, re-enrolled and finished up my undergrad and then went into a banking career. So yeah, I didn't, and then through that, I guess to expand on your question, the meandering is, it wasn't until a little bit later that, well, I knew I needed to at least get an undergrad to kind of establish a career. And then it wasn't until I kind of bumped into a few other opportunities that I realized how much I enjoyed the problem solving and the dynamic nature of manufacturing and how it's always changing and how much I enjoyed that. So trying to find my way back into that manufacturing world. So yeah, it's interesting. Yeah, you know, never know where life's going to take you. So
Exactly. But it sounds like you also had like a big picture. It's almost like I was just trying to think of, you started out with a big block of clay and then you started just chipping away at it and forming out a shape to it. And then you use that to kind of open up another opportunity for you in the world of manufacturing.
yeah, I knew without certain, educational background, without a certain, bachelor's or a master's or whatever, I wasn't going to have the doors opened that I wanted opened. So I knew that I needed to at least start there. So
yeah, awesome. Thank you, Paul. And Darek, could you tell us where you saw yourself professionally? I know that you had a military career as well, but maybe just talk us through where you saw yourself professionally as a high school student. Sorry, Darek, you're on mute.
Thanks, man. I need help. A little different than Paul and Lane's path. Congrats to them. I'm pushing through and finishing earlier. I really didn't know what I wanted to do. I had a football scholarship that I took, but I wasn't really ready to do university. Got there and realized I was an average football player, and that was not my future. And so after a couple of years, I moved on and just worked in the workforce. My parents hadn't done college, and it wasn't really pushed. So I joined the military. I loved it. I loved, fixing airplanes and the mission and the teamwork that we did there. And in that, realized education was important and worked on that after the fact, my later 20s and 30s to finish my degree. I never really thought I was a good student, and I wasn't really ever pushed to do university. So I didn't really have a plan on really what I was going to do. It was just really hard work, and I don't know that I still know what I'm going to do. It's changing all the time. And so I was really, high school, it was kind of hard because I felt like everybody had this grand plan and they knew what they were doing. And I don't think they did, but I thought they did. And so it was always kind of hard to see like all these people, all these big plans of what they were going to do. And I didn't really know what I was going to do, but I feel like I had a great life, a successful life, and enjoyed what I've done. So I don't have any regrets. But it was kind of scary at times, just trying to figure out who I was going to be and what I was going to do.
Yeah, no, I can definitely appreciate that. And I think even to your point, I'm still trying to figure out what I'm doing sometimes. So it never ends. It's a never ending journey. We're all just along for the ride.
Truth.
Let's see, Darek, we're going to stay on you. And this one is going to be your choose your fate. So you can pick either the best or worst advice you were given regarding your career goals.
Ooh, okay. Well, I think I'll try to stay positive and say best. Because there's lots of bad advice out there, and nobody knows themselves but themselves. And so, people have a lot of experiences, and you should listen to them and try to learn from them. But for me, the best advice was to invest in yourself, believe in yourself, and bet on yourself through hard work and determination. I'm, like I said earlier, I've learned over time that I'm smarter than I thought when I was in high school, but I'm never the smartest person in the room or at the table. But I do have good team building skills and connecting with people. And so just, basically through hard work and being real with people, being real with your employees, just like kids in high school, sometimes people talk down to them or think, oh, you haven't lived life or you don't know what you're doing. Your employees know if you're full of garbage, if you're being sincere, if you're being real. So kind of like to Lane's point earlier, like I really work hard to connect with people, whether it's through where they're from, life experiences, families, sports teams, to have a connection to something I can talk to them about. And I enjoy that conversation, getting to know them. You're much likelier to have a better relationship and get more out of them and help them get to where they want to be. Because really that's my goal with my employees, is to understand where they want to be and help them get to the path in the future they want. So that's the best advice I've had.
Thanks, Derek. I think that's good advice. And talking about connections, I think someone in the audience made a connection through that C-17 in the back. Paul, what would be the best or worst advice that you were given regarding your career goals?
Yeah, so the best advice I got was when your boss or your employer, someone with your company, offers you an opportunity, to always say yes, with the caveat of know your limitations and when it comes to time and capacity restrictions, things like that. But if you're given an opportunity, someone's putting their trust in you for whatever that project may be. And so just do it to the best of your abilities and find a way to make that happen, whatever that might be. Now, the balance of that is, if you're already working 70-hour weeks and someone says, hey, I've got this great project, it only takes, 30 hours a week. It's like, well, okay, now I've got a 100-hour week in front of me. I should probably find a way of balancing that. But in general, that's been really great for me when I've had opportunities. It's just helped me kind of, take that next step in an organization, challenge, instead of kind of plateauing in your knowledge or whatever, you get this extra push to kind of say, oh, I didn't know that about the company. And by sitting in on this project, now I'm exposed to this new side of the business I was unaware of. And so it's just helped make you a more well-rounded individual and a better contributor to your team and your organization. And I will also echo the sentiment from Darek on being genuine. People can smell the BS from a mile away. And so if you're not able to just talk factually and openly about who you are and kind of build that trust, the team you'll never build respect and trust in an organization. So just be you. Yeah.
Great advice. And I like the caveat too about, kind of knowing your own limitations so you don't spread yourself too thin. Because I've done that myself and I've seen other people do it and it kind of backfires sometimes.
Yeah, I've done it as well. And so you definitely, you run into those limitations by, sitting there at 2 a.m. going, I have a 6 a.m. meeting and I'm still working on this thing. So yeah, but
Yeah.
It's all part of the journey.
Yeah. Thanks, Paul. And Lane,
Yep.
What would you say was the best or worst advice that you were given regarding your career goals?
I would say the best advice that I've received regarding my career was actually probably from my family or when I was a kid growing up. Just be a dependable person, kind of echoing what Paul said. But just if you're if you're being counted on, if you're supposed to deliver something and you have a due date, make sure you hit that due date, or communicate any issues that may arise. You want to be a person that your supervisor, your coworkers can rely on. You want to show up every day. You want to show up on time. You want to deliver your projects on time. So just being a dependable person in general is just an overall great quality to have in a person. And so that kind of like flows through like a lot of different aspects in life, as I kind of said here. But yeah, that was something that kind of stuck with me growing up, and I've tried to take my career that way, and just my boss can count on me, or my coworkers can count on me if they needed some help or assistance, or they don't. Kind of rambling here again, but it's basically just as long as I am providing my work, I'm helping, they can help, I can help out when needed, and provide that to my coworkers, their supervisor, my company. It can be really beneficial for you in your career, I believe. It has for me in my short career.
Yeah, and I think also with that, your name then precedes you in a good way. And then when your name comes up, I think it'll only be positive, and it'll open up opportunities for you as well. Thanks, Flame. So I want to address a couple of questions that came in from the students, I was going to say audience, students. So one of these, this is just open-ended. If you do have anything to contribute to this, feel free. Student question was, if I like 3D printing, are there jobs that are similar to that for aerospace parts?
Can I answer it?
Yeah, feel free.
Yeah, so we have employees on staff that they do nothing but 3D printing. Now, some of those in our facility, those parts don't go directly on the aircraft, but we have tons of fixturing for non-destructive inspection to hold it in the tanks, the ultrasonic tanks. But we have 2 full-time positions. That's all they do is work with high-end 3D printers to make fixturings and check fixtures and other parts. And it's amazing what they're able to do, and given the chance to innovate and design. So yeah, that's a huge future, and growing all the time in what I see in aerospace.
Awesome. Thank you, Derek. Did anybody else have anything to contribute to if the student likes 3D printing, if there are jobs in aerospace? Well, hey, honestly, I think that's pretty cool, and I'd be curious to see if that student has a 3D printing machine at home. It sounds like there's a lot of opportunities out there in aerospace manufacturing that involve 3D printing. Let's see, another question that came in is, are college degrees required for these jobs, or are there more training-based paths into these careers? And this one's open-ended too. Feel free to, whoever wants to answer these questions.
I'll jump in again, at least to start, if that's all right.
Yeah.
So there's both, at least in our industry and in our company. Obviously, we have lots of engineers. That's a degree based, and experience, finance and accounting, degree based. But there's more jobs that are non-degree based than not, that are, high paying, professional type of jobs, like high-end jobs through the NDI, the non-destructive testing, CMM, like precision measuring. You don't need a degree to do those. You need, brain power, hard work. You need to go to training courses and certifications, machining, running mills, programming, just tons of different jobs that we have. Painters, professional painters, assembly, quality assurance. So we have more jobs that are non-degree based. Whether people have them or not, it's not required. But these are high-paying, good future jobs that don't require a degree. I think a degree is always smart and always pushes you forward for supervision jobs in the future and builds a better foundation. But yeah, there is other opportunities.
Awesome. Thanks, Derek. Did anybody else have something to contribute? So the question was, are college degrees required for these jobs, or are there more training-based paths into these careers?
For finance specifically, I mean, a degree is going to open those doors, just because there's just the kind of that barrier to entry, I guess, if you will. But it's still possible to get into those roles without it. But I would say from the manufacturing side, like on our plant here, Plexus Globals has 20,000 employees, and this site has 800-900, and a vast majority of those are techs and operators that are out on the floor. They're doing complicated assemblies on these PCBs and different electronic components that we're building up. And those positions don't require a degree, and they are skill-based, but a lot of those skills are hard skills that are taught as you come in the door. And there's plenty of success stories where through hard work, determination, and willing to step out of your comfort zone, people have moved into quality and even program management roles, which are six-figure salary positions that have kind of worked their way up in the organization through the years. So yeah, there's plenty of opportunity without a degree. It's just to Derek's comment, a degree is never a bad idea. It always makes you just that much more marketable.
Awesome. Thanks, Paul. And Lane, did you have anything you wanted to add?
Yeah, a little bit. Micron's a large company. We definitely have a lot of different roles to fill in all different areas. A lot of degree-based roles and a lot of manufacturing type roles, which require hard experience or hard training, like Paul mentioned. So there's a lot of opportunities at Micron to whichever route you take. I actually work with one of the guys I work with. He started off at Micron as a tech, and eventually through some employer support, he went back to school after a number of years and got his degree, and opened up another door for him to keep advancing throughout the keep advancing in his career at Micron. So as Paul and Derek both said, it has opened a lot. Degrees can open those doors for you, but it's definitely not the only route you can go with your career.
Cool. Thank you, Lane. And that's awesome that that Micron invests into the employees. And I'm sure there's investments, whether they're tangible or intangible, from the employers towards the employees, because ultimately it's a mutual relationship to make the company grow and make the work grow. I will add a quick plug also for Forging Futures Idaho, that we do sponsor with Idaho Manufacturing Alliance 8 apprenticeships in manufacturing. So there are apprenticeship opportunities that you can start through school to registered apprenticeship in Idaho, at least. If you do have questions about that, you can reach out to us, and we'll put the email address and our website in the chat. Let's see, another question that came in. This is a good one. How do your companies view the young people that are coming out of high school? And I'll leave that open-ended if anybody wants to respond to that.
I guess I'll start again. I'm a hog. Sorry. We view them as super valuable in the future, of our growing company. So it's a chance to build a relationship early and invest in them and in our company. And so, as long as it's the right fit and understanding what they want and what their future path is, then we can put them in the right type of role to be successful, and, like I said, invest in them. And so they're a huge asset in a market where, good employees are really hard to find. We work hard to invest in our people with time and money.
Awesome. Thank you, Derek. And Paul and Lane, I know it may not be the case where you hire people out of high school, but if there are opportunities, or maybe like even job shadows, internships, is there opportunities that your company or your culture offers for high school students?
Yeah, Plexus has a very broad internship program for high school and college students. at all of our different locations. And so, yeah, there's plenty of opportunity there. And, how Plexus views those, it's the future of the company, we need to attract the right people with the right skills. And, we're to Derek's point, I'm not sure exactly where his shop is at, but in the Treasure Valley here in the Boise market, it's incredibly competitive. So the more we can do to help share what we do and interest, and try to pique students' interest in our facility and some of the jobs and opportunities we have, it's just the better off we are. And to Derek's point too, it's because it's so competitive, it can be pretty lucrative for a high school student as well, especially compared to maybe some of the other jobs that are out there in the market. Going into manufacturing is a good way to get earn a good paycheck right out of high school.
Awesome. Thank you, Paul. And Lane, same question, in terms of perception or opportunities that exist for high school students?
Yeah, can't really speak on the opportunities for high school students. I'm not entirely sure. I've only been in Micron a short time, and I've worked with a limited number of people, but I would assume that Micron does hire a large number of high school students or new hires. And but one thing I do want to touch on is that Micron likes to does treat all employees the same regardless of your title or what your education is or anything like that. So, and I'm sure Paul and Derek's companies both do similar, both have similar behaviors or cultures. And so that's one thing I want to touch on. I can't really answer the question. I'm not entirely sure on that, but we do we treat everyone with respect, and we value everyone regardless of their training, education, titles, experience.
Perfect. Thank you, Lane. And just to make note, Derek's company ATC is up in Post Falls, Idaho.
Good.
And we are nearing time. We have about 3 minutes, but I did want to throw this out there. I'll just start with Darek, and then we'll go around the panel. What would you say to the future workforce interested in entering aerospace or manufacturing?
Oh, I see a strong future in it. I mean, I know we've kind of been in a down year with COVID and air travel's down, but air travel's not going away. Our ownership is investing even more so in our people and our facilities, our equipment. Air travel is here to stay. It's an exciting, fast-paced industry with tons of opportunities. So if it's something that piques your interest, I would tell somebody that I wouldn't shy away from it. Go for it.
Beautiful. Thank you, Darek. Paul, is there anything that you'd like to say to the audience watching?
Yeah, I feel like I'm echoing Darek here, but it's amazing how fast everything is changing in manufacturing, and it's not going to slow down. It's more complicated packaging on the components that are going, and the commercial and military aviation is getting more and more complicated, and so and then the manufacturing processes are changing, and especially with this big effort to reshore a lot of the manufacturing that goes into supporting commercial and military aviation. I mean, there's just going to be so many opportunities. So if you're looking for a challenging, fast-paced, dynamic, where you're not going to come in and do the same thing every day, you're going to be have opportunities to grow and develop new skills. I definitely encourage you to look into manufacturing.
Great. Thank you, Paul. And Lane, is there anything that you'd like to offer to the audience watching this right now?
Yeah, kind of hitting on the same points as Paul and Darek, but it's constantly growing. At least at Micron, with with memory the way it is, and storage being a constant need in this world we live in today, there's no sign of it slowing down. Constantly changing and evolving situations and new types of manufacturing coming in. So it won't slow down. It'll be only ever growing, and it would be a fantastic career to jump feet first into.
Thank you, Wayne. And thanks, everybody. We are at time right now. So I just wanted to take this moment to say thank you to Paul, Lane, Derek. You guys were fantastic. You offer some amazing insight. So hopefully this resonated well with the audience that's watching this either live or will watch this later on our YouTube. And with that, just want to say thank you and thank the audience, and on to the next session.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Bye, guys.
Thank you for your time.
Thank you.